right, Harrison Brand, ready to get started on your beautiful offer for the Amber Ridge home? All right, so this will take about 15 to 20 minutes. What we're going to do is I'm going to pull together all the important elements of time and terms within the contract and put it together in a bullet point. So it'll make more sense when we get into the contract how everything will play out. So we'll go over the bullet points first, and then we'll jump into the actual contract. And I'll go over each page and talk about the most important elements. And if you have additional questions after all that, of course, please let me know. And then this video, you can refer to it multiple times. And I find this most effective because sometimes we have this conversation about what to expect and we walk away and they're like, what did she say? So now you'll have a video that you can always refer to. Okay, and before we get started and all that, I just wanted to thank you all so much for choosing me to be your realtor, to help get you to your home, to help get the kings to the castle of their home. I'm going to do everything I can to take the best care of you. So let's go ahead and get started with this offer, and I'm hoping for you all that we won't have to battle any further. So far from what I see and what we have right now, you are incredibly strong and are going to be hard to beat. So far, I'm feeling really great about your position and we're playing to win, right? Okay, so grab a drink, get settled, and let's get started. Okay, let's jump into the bullet point of the most important elements of the contract concerning expectations and timelines. So we are offering a 21-day escrow. Throughout the 21-day time period, there will be things that will need to be done within a certain amount of time to keep everything on schedule and in order and cohesive for everybody. So, of course, there is a step process through the entire thing to make sure that you're comfortable and confident with your purchase. So every buyer typically has 3 contingencies that you need or that need to satisfy you for you to want to commit and get to the closing table. The first contingencies is inspections and investigations. The second contingency is appraisal. The final contingency is the loan. When all of these 3 things check out, then you'll know that you're comfortable and confident to close and make this home yours. The whole purpose of these inspections and investigations is to make sure that you know the pulse of the home and every single thing, because once you get the keys, that's it. It's yours. Everything great, all the good, the bad, the ugly. So we want to make sure we identify everything or anything up front so we can try to get the seller to either give a credit or do the repairs. So I know the seller did a roof inspection and a pest inspection. I'm just waiting for those reports. So if that's the case and your offer is accepted, then all we'll need is a home inspection and then kind of go from there. If they recommend further inspections for anything else, then, we'll go from there. But ultimately, of course, you can do any additional inspections that you want or none at all if you're satisfied with the inspections the seller did. Okay, so let's kind of get through this and I'll kind of show you how this will play out step by step. So in a 21-day time period, this is kind of our checklist. Day 1, offer accepted. Day 1 through 3, earnest money deposit to go in escrow, which is $10,000. What the earnest money deposit means, it's a good faith estimate saying, hey, seller, I'm a real buyer with real money. And once your offer is accepted, this amount will be required to be in escrow 1 to 3 business days. So that's your money that's going to go towards your loan unless you default, which means your full commitment will be due on day 19. You can, if once you give them the full commitment saying, hey, I'm committed, I'm ready to close, You can cancel, but if you do, you can lose your deposit. The whole idea is if you're getting any cancellation vibes, to address it within this time period so we can cancel before full commitment and get you your deposit back, or find a way to get an extension to give you more time to investigate anything that you might need to satisfy your inspections. So most cases, it is a newer home. We'll get inspections and investigations done within the first 7 days. I really don't expect anything with this home other than cosmetic stuff like paint and, embellishments and things like that. So really, I don't see any problem with that. So let's continue on, and we'll talk more about earnest money deposit once we get into the contract. Okay, so within the first 7 days, you're going to receive all the seller disclosures, reports, the HOA documents, and you're going to do all your inspections and investigations, and you're going to investigate insurance within the first 7 days after the offer is accepted. Home inspection, the dates to be determined. Once your offer is accepted, we'll find a day and a time that works for you all, because of course I want you there through the whole inspection period. And then we'll schedule it accordingly within the first 7 days. Within the first 7 days, your first contingency for inspections and investigations are due. So anything you need to review has to be done within the first 7 days. But really, if you need more time on something, we can find a way to get an extension. So moving on, the next contingency is appraisal. So of course, Joseph, the lender, will order the appraiser to get this done right away once the offer is accepted, and we'll need them to go out and get the report back within 12 days. So if for whatever reason the appraisal comes in low, we'll renegotiate with the seller to get them to come down to appraisal price. If the appraisal comes in higher, there's nothing to be done. That extra value is nothing but just extra equity towards your purchase, and then the contract price is still the same. So really at 507, I do think this home will appraise. So really, I don't think there'll be any issues at all with that. So ultimately, there's so many variations of how everything will play out. Really try not to worry about anything going wrong until it comes before me. I've done this dance so many times. I've seen it played out so many ways. I'm honestly prepared to navigate through anything that comes our way. So for now, we won't worry about that. So at day 19, your full commitment will be due. That means you've done your inspections and you're happy. The appraisal came in and everything checked out. The loan came in, the lenders told you what the interest rate is, what your final monthly is, and you're satisfied. Once you're satisfied with everything, that means you'll remove all contingencies, your full commitment. Everything is done in writing. So when days come, things don't just happen. Everything will have to be done in writing. So when full commitment comes, you'll sign something saying you're fully committed and ready to close. Then everybody will do everything to process the paperwork to get to the closing table. Once everything checks out, 5 days before we close, we'll do a final walkthrough, deposit remaining funds to close, and sign closing papers. The actual recording is a 2-part process. So one day, the day before we close, the loan will fund, and then the next day we'll officially close and record. And so on day 21, especially because the home is vacant, you'll be able to get the keys first thing in the morning. So it really is as simple as that. Of course, California has a 30-page contract, so it seems complicated, but it really is just as simple as that. So now let's get started into the actual contract and go over each page. I'm really only going to point out the most important elements. As you can imagine, everything is very standard and basic. The whole purpose of the contract is Buyer, it's your responsibility to do your diligence in investigating and inspecting all of your concerns within the timeline of the contract. And then to the seller, it's your responsibility to disclose any pertinent facts that could devalue the home in the eyes of the buyer. So it's all very subjective. So ultimately, you'll know when everything checks out, and I'll be right there every step of the way to make sure everything is legit. So this very first page is disclosure regarding real estate agent, seller's agent, buyer's agent, seller and buyer's responsibilities. I just basically went over that. Sellers and buyer's agents' responsibility. We are all legally responsible to be truthful and honest and have the utmost care and integrity throughout this process. So legally, nobody's supposed to lie, but of course, we will always be suspicious, and we will always ask questions until you're satisfied. So know that if you are asking questions a million times, know that it's never a bother. I support you, and I'll be right there to get the answers every single time. Okay, so that's basically it on this page. So moving along to the next page, this is all just random, basically definitions. If you want to read it, please do. This is Fair Housing and Discriminating Advisory. This is a new paperwork they added to the contracts because there's been a lot of discrimination coming from all kinds of ways. So this is just basically saying everybody has to be fair. So moving on from that, so this next page just says possible representation of more than one buyer or seller. Of course, it's my responsibility to always respond and make sure that I'm there for you to help you through this process. This is just basically saying that I can't sign paper with you and then go on a 2-week vacation and go MIA. So know that, of course, I'm a 24-hour full-time, full-service realtor. If you call and I don't answer, I might just be in a meeting or in another call. I will certainly respond to you as soon as I can, at very longest by the end of the day. And if for whatever reason I go on a vacay, right? I'll definitely let you know if I plan on going off grid, and I hope you'll let me know too. All right, so it's no big deal if you want to take a day or two. Just let me know so I don't freak out. Okay, so moving on from there. So wire transferred funds. So this is a big deal. Fraud. They always come up with new clever ways to trick people. So through this entire process, we will have our circle of people. I will identify who is in our circle. And if you get any suspicious calls, texts, or emails that you're unsure of, please let me know right away. These people are so clever, and sometimes their timing just happens to be right. And so when we do come in a situation of you ever wiring your deposit or your closing costs, escrow will give you secret instructions. Don't share them. Keep them very VIP, and that's just all. You'll know what to do once the instructions come in. So once we move forward, I will always be talking about fraud because it's such a big issue right now. So let's just not worry about that for now. So moving on, we're getting into the juice of the actual contract, where we have your names, we have the offer price, 507, close in 21 days. This is just identifying the realtors. So this is where we talk about your earnest money deposit, $10,000 to go into escrow after your offer is accepted within 3 business days. So if your offer is accepted on Monday, then the earnest money deposit will need to be in escrow by Wednesday. If your offer is accepted on Wednesday, then your earnest money deposit won't need to be in escrow until the following Monday. Anyways, don't worry about the details of that. Of course, I'll be right there to remind you and keep you on par the whole step of the way. So this is your money that will go towards your loan and closing costs. So Joseph mentioned you're doing 3% down. So that means your loan would be at $485. So ultimately, your closing cost amount, Joseph will go over that with you, and most likely will be around $30,000 from what I'm seeing so far between down payment and total amount needed. All right, so moving on, this just talks about verification of down payment and closing costs or the proof of funds. You already gave me that, so luckily we were able to submit that with the offer. And this is important because some agents don't do that, and I really think that's weak. So a strong, real ready buyer will have the proof of funds ready to go. So boom, we got that done. So a typical appraisal contingency is 17 days. We're going to bust it out in 12. This box just says that you're going to have a pre-approval. So you'll see a lot of blank lines throughout the contract. And that means it either doesn't apply or nothing needs to change. So that's just it. So this whole page here is just talking about financing. Loan contingency is usually removed in 21 days, but we're going to bust it out in 19 because that's how winning is done. So if nothing's checked, it obviously doesn't apply. So this is a very clean offer. There are dirty, messy, complicated offers, and there are clean, sparkly, magical offers. And I'm telling you, you're submitting a very clean and sparkly offer. You're not asking for anything. You're very strong. Okay, so now right here where we're talking about allocation of costs, we're going to jump into who pays for what. And in different areas, every area has their own traditions and standards. So in our area, it's traditional. The seller pays for the natural hazard closure report, which is a disclosure report that talks about fire zone, fault lines, earthquake, flood zones, any natural hazards, oil, or who knows. So that'll be part of what the seller's responsible in getting you in your inspection timeline for you to review and go over. And who knows, maybe there's a fault line there. I'm not too sure. I would guess not, though. Okay, so moving on, it's the seller's responsibility to pay for smoke alarm, carbon monoxide, water heating, bracing. This doesn't apply. Moving on, in our area, it's customary the buyer pays for escrow and title fees. In this area, it's customary that the seller pays for county, city transfer, all HOA fees, and any private transfer fees. I would say it's customary in our area for us to waive getting a home warranty now. If after home inspections you decide that you might want additional coverage on the home, I'd be happy to send you a brochure. You can review it to see if it has any value. And if you decide you want a home warranty, we can roll that cost into your closing costs so it could be all taken care of. It's good for a year. It's about $550 for an entire year. Once you have the home inspections, you could see if it's worth it. Honestly, I don't think you'll need it. The biggest value in a home warranty is AC, furnace, water heater. I mean, this home is still pretty new, so I don't think you'll need one. So we'll go over that when the time comes. So this just says, hey, including appliances. If there's any leased or liened items, the seller has to disclose this within a timely period. And it's up for you to review and decide if you want to take anything on. If there is anything leased or liened, technically it's the seller's responsibility to take care of it. So let's just not worry about that for now. If anything comes up, I'm prepared to battle. So this just goes on to say closing a possession. Once we close, you will get the keys the very second we close. So sometimes we close, people see it's vacant. They're like, oh, can we move in the day before? No, you can't. It's a liability of the seller. If you move stuff in and somebody breaks in or there's a fire or flood, who's going to pay for it? It's just a big mess. And the best practice is just wait till we close, and then you get the keys there. All right, so moving on here, this is where we're going to talk a lot, or this is where it goes over a lot about the buyer's responsibility to do inspections and investigations. Like I was saying, you need to do it within the timeline that's given in the contract. If you wait till after we close to identify or inspect something, and then you're not happy, it's too late. There will be absolutely nothing I can do at that point. So at the end, there's a list of all the things you could possibly want to inspect and investigate. If you're ever wondering, oh, you don't want to miss anything, don't worry. I have a checklist, and we'll make sure that we go over every little thing. So one big thing is Megan's Law. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. This is just where any sex offenders have to be registered. So if that's something that's important to you, you can go to meganslaw.com, put in the address, and see if there's anything around you that is concerning enough for you to not want to move forward. All right, so moving on. So condition of the property, the seller is responsible for maintaining the condition and the safety of the property. So if the home does get in a fire, flood, or somebody breaks in, the seller is responsible for repairing the home at their cost. So let's not get into that. The odds of that happening are very rare and ultimately fall into the responsibility of the seller anyways. So moving on. So this just goes on. Buyer's investigation of the property. Obviously, you see that a million times because it's super important. So seller's right to cancel. Once your offer is accepted, the seller basically has no right to cancel. This is why sellers are very picky about what buyers they pick, because they know once they accept the offer, they're stuck with that buyer unless they default or unless the buyer cancels. So know that once your offer is accepted, the seller cannot cancel or really do anything. They have to wait and allow you to do your proper inspections and investigations for you to be satisfied. And this is all to protect you, to make sure you're confident in your purchase. So moving on. And then, of course, you will have an opportunity to cancel within the timelines given. If for whatever reason you want to cancel within the first 7 days are ideal. Once we pass this inspection and investigation timeline, it becomes more and more complicated to cancel at that point. And after that, it would have to be because of appraisal and because of loan of why you're canceling. Any condition or property issues after that point most likely won't be accepted by the seller. So obviously the cancellation has to be legit. So we'll go over that later. So moving along in the contract. So final walkthrough. So we'll do a final walkthrough just before we close, just to make sure the home looks great and everything's legit. Moving on. So this is just escrow. So this whole page right here, page 8 of the contract, is the legal page. And this whole page just goes on to say if you have any legal issues that everybody agrees to mediate it before going to court. So ultimately, if it can't be mediated, of course, court's the next step. So everybody, really, if there's any problems, we should be able to find it right away. The odds of actually court stuff are a rarity. They really are. So ultimately, we should be able to find any issues up front. And after that, mediation is definitely a good second step. So as you can see, the next page here is mostly just definitions. So they said that they're going to need about 2 days to submit the offer to the seller. Honestly, I don't know if I buy that. I feel like they want to let the weekend ride to see if they can get any other interest. Anyways, I would say, all we could do is our best. I'm going to keep pushing them every day to get this offer accepted so we can just lock it in. Once we submit the offer, until the offer is accepted, the door is completely open for any buyers to come in and submit. So we all have to pray and put our good energies in and vibes in and stop all the other forces from competing. As of now, you are a rock solid, strong buyer and looking real good. You're going to be hard to beat. So that's awesome. So this page is just kind of, once the offer is accepted, all of this will be filled out by agents and escrow. And of course, you're going to get a copy of everything. So this is the page I was talking about, buyer's inspection advisory, where this is just a whole lineup of all the things you could possibly want to inspect and investigate, like general condition of the property, square footage, age, boundaries, wood destroying pests, which is the pest inspection, which I heard the seller already did, and we should be getting that report any day. Soil stability, that really only applies for agriculture or properties with land or possible concerns of maybe endangered species. Water and utility well systems and components, environmental hazard, earthquakes and flooding, fire hazard and other, building permits and zonings, rental property restrictions, security and safety, neighborhood areas, subdivision conditions. I mean, really, the checklist of inspections, it really is this simple. I know starting out, it seems like so many things, but it really is just this. And we'll go over each thing, just really one thing at a time, so we can be focused and not miss anything. So this page right here, California Consumer Advisory Act, this whole page here just means, hey, there could be personal private information that's shared between buyer and seller. And this just means that nobody is going to sell or share anybody's information that is given between this process. I mean, obviously this probably applies to rock stars or celebrities, but really it applies to anybody. So if you happen to see someone's address or email, I mean, the whole idea is to keep everything private and to not share it with everything's meant to be confidential. So everything between us is meant to be between us, right? All right, guys, so that's it. That is the entire offer. So let me know if you have any questions, thoughts, or any additional concerns. For now, let's just put good vibes out there. I would expect to hear probably by Sunday night or Monday what the official answer is on your offer. If you don't hear from me, it's because I don't have any news, but know that every day I'm going to check on them and see what I can do to get them to review and accept as soon as possible. All right, everybody. Well, have a great day. Many good thoughts and vibes out to you. Have a happy new year. I think 2021, the best is yet to come. Let's do this.